This is the first time I have ever written my son's story. It's hard to go back to that place. Everything is sort of a blur compiled of so many emotions. Some of them are hard to face. Like I store it in the back of my mind, almost as though it didn't happen, but it did. I don't recall the exact day or moment that it all began. I know it happened when the snow starts to melt and the spring makes her debut. I want to say it was sometime in March 2016. My son Dylan was suffering from severe constipation and was unable to pee. He wasn't even potty trained. He was 2.5 years old. We had kind of started and everything happened, and so it kind of threw us off for a loop. After many trips to the hospital, interns, nurses, doctors, surgeries, multiple specialists, multiple theories, and he had no definitive diagnosis. He had been poked, prodded, had a few different surgeries to try to figure out what was going on, and there was nothing. All we had is what was going on with no name for it. At one point, he spent roughly 3 weeks at the local pediatric hospital, Helen DeVos, and it was really hard. It was hard for me watching my son spend so much time in a hospital, and it was hard to not be around my other young son as often as I would have liked. And he was what they called a rare case because they could see the issues, but they had no solution. They had no reason as to what it is. So it was hard to have peace about something that had no name. It wasn't uncommon to have doctors and the like in and out of his room. I slept beside him. I didn't want to leave him. And it was very difficult to constantly watch him be poked and prodded. Fortunately, he was a pretty social kid and he took it probably better than I did. I felt like I was drowning and helpless because there were no answers to make him better. And as a mom, you just want to fix everything. And I couldn't. There was no perfect solution, only problems that didn't make sense. Have you ever had to catheterize a baby? Or watch your doctor take a baby from your arms and have to make him do multiple things to clear a blockage in his bowels? Do you know that they have scales that weigh your baby's diaper? We had to weigh every single diaper, whether it was a little pee, a little poop. Everything had to be weighed to see how much he was giving. We had to count every bit. Everything he did was monitored. How much he ate, how much he drank. I had to take note of every little thing he did. It was overwhelming. Watching how he walked with an IV, almost too big for him to walk with. He would walk down the hallways to get some fresh air, and sometimes we'd be able to play outside. They had this floor on floor 11 that they would let you go up there and he could play. They had video games, toys. They had Thomas the Train, which was his favorite, and arts and crafts and coloring. At one point, Whitecaps came up and he got to get a picture with them, and so we tried to find our silver lining when we could, but it was hard to watch my kid walk around carrying an IV. At one point, he had tape under his nose from a procedure, and I just think of the tape on his face and just everything he went through. It was hard to get blood from him. It was hard to get IVs in him. At one point, it got so bad that the only option was to get a suprapubic catheter, which is it has a hose, more or less, that comes from his bladder, from his abdomen, and he carried around his bag full of urine, since he could was unable to go naturally. We had to constantly clean it, empty it. It was very hard to constantly keep clean. We kept him on high doses of Miralax, sometimes X-Lax, to ensure another blockage didn't happen. He was frequently on anti-gas meds from severe gas to prevent the gas bubbles and the pain in his stomach. I tried fervently to prevent infections from his new permanent catheter. Unfortunately, he was still frequently getting them and getting hospitalized no matter what I did. I felt useless. At one point, he got a high fever and I knew he needed to be seen. God put it in my heart to get him into the hospital. He was hospitalized at Zeeland Community Hospital. After the fact, I found out the next day, after he was being treated, that he had sepsis. Now, fortunately, it hadn't gotten his bloodstream yet, and we caught it literally just in time because of God putting it in my heart to get him seen, and the doctors being, and the nurses being so on top of things. He responded beautifully to the antibiotic. Praise God that it was contained in his kidney. We caught it before it reached his bloodstream. At one point, he did have his kidney enlarged. I spent so much time not wanting to leave his side. I slept in his room by his crib. When he would go there, sometimes he'd be in a crib. For the most part, he had a hospital bed, and in those times, I literally slept in bed beside him. I miss his older brother, Owen. I couldn't fully be there for him. I relied on family for a while as I fought for his brother. My husband at that time, I barely spent much time with. I was at risk of losing my job as I'd missed so much work already. The bills were racking up. We drove out to even Mott's Children's Hospital, where they did a surgery in hopes for answers that were still, once again, never received. I just wanted my baby better. I just wanted to fix him. To take away all his hurt, his pain. My world was in complete chaos. I was trying to breathe through the whirlwind of the unknown that left fear in my heart and a plea for answers, but more importantly, healing. I remember every day reading devotionals that for some reason always seemed to be exactly what I needed to hear. God has a way of doing that, doesn't he? And writing songs or singing, God always found little moments to give me some peace in my chaos, to allow me to breathe another day. This story is hard to talk about, but I cannot keep it to myself. The story is a happy ending, one with a miracle too good not to share. Sometimes we have to go back to those places to fully share of God's love, grace, peace. This is a story of Dylan's miracle. I shared all the chaos, now it's time to share some of the peace in that storm. Every day I read devotionals, as I said, that always seemed to fit exactly what I was going through. It's as though God were talking to me when I felt so desolate and alone, hopeless. Prayers from even people I didn't know were working. My prayers were working. Money was being donated to us, and a fundraiser was even given to help with our expenses. It's so amazing to be in hospitals that really care for your child, even when they can't fix them. When he would go up on those floors, on floor 11 to play, it was so nice to know that behind the walls of a hospital, joy could still be found. He loved playing the Play-Doh there. I think he went through most of theirs. I'm sure that their Play-Doh budget went up while we were there. You could almost always find Play-Doh and drawings in his room. And they painted these little wooden figurines. At one point, his brother was able to visit At one of the, I guess, a few visits, his brother was able to go there. They got to paint wooden figurines together, and it was nice to see them together. And they got to have fun. I loved having them both there. God gave us some joy, even in our unknown. So many amazing movies to choose from in his room that help keep us distracted. He still remembers watching the movie Bolt. He would get visitors treats and could sometimes get to take a wagon ride to the main floor and get ice cream or pick out a prize from the gift shop. Or play outside. They had a little musical area and he loved to play. He loved when he felt good to go just exploring everywhere in the hospital. Everywhere they would let him go, he would go. He didn't let his situation stop him. He remained positive. Despite my worry, he always found joy. He also brought joy to others while he was there. His joy, despite his circumstances, rubbed off on us too. He was brave, which helped make me brave. We were at his urologist appointment. The whole ordeal maybe lasted 6 months. I'm not really sure, give or take. It felt like longer. It just felt like this massive blur. And his doctor, Dr. Barber was his name, he said, I want you to move his toes from his catheter bag and just cap it off. I want you to see if, without the help of the catheter, if he can go on his own. I was freaking out. Admittingly, I was very, very skeptical. I got home and I prayed, almost yelling, all right, God, it's all you now. I can't go any further. I just couldn't fight anymore. I would continue to do everything I could for him, but I couldn't keep fighting as though I had the control. So I surrendered. Finally, I prayed. A few minutes went on and he peed in his diaper for the first time in months. And then he kept peeing as though he had never stopped. I had never been so happy to change a diaper. He had a follow-up ultrasound on his bladder. It was once extremely stretched out, almost like a massive balloon. It was huge. It was now miraculously just back normal, back to size. Like it hadn't even happened. The doctor removed his catheter. Now only a scar remains from the whole ordeal. He, for the longest time, thought he had 2 belly buttons because of where it was located. He didn't even know it was a scar. He began to flourish and grow. He now only sees doctors when he's sick or for a checkup. At the end of the summer, it will be 6 years since God performed his miracle on my little boy, Dylan. He is a healthy boy, normal weight, loves life. For a long time, during those times, he was malnourished because he was having a hard time eating because he felt so sick. And now he's just like every other kid. You wouldn't know he was malnourished and sick at one point. He loves school. He loves his gymnastics. He's strong. He loves his family. He loves people. He just loves people. He loves animals. He even loves bugs. He loves all creatures. He loves learning about the world and asking a billion questions. He has a love and passion for God that I have never seen in a child his age. As he's gotten older, I ask him if he remembers. He does a few things. Only the good stuff. The movie Bolt being one of them. He doesn't remember it in a naked light. What little he does remember. The scar from the whole ordeal is as much a part of him as his belly button. I have learned even though my world felt like chaos, God was still bringing me peace during it. Still offering me joy through it. And in his time, when I fully surrendered my pain and gave my chaos to the Lord, is when that miracle happened. In that miracle, I found my peace, and so did my son. And I can't wait to see all the wonderful things that my son will continue to do in others' life because of the miracle he received. And I'm so grateful to God. for healing my child.